So you care about performance in your C# applications, and that's really awesome. And I bet that you think a lot about very complex stuff like spans, like memory marshalling, GC, optimizing allocations, and things similar to that. But while you are doing this, I'm sure that there are some very common programming patterns that are a performance nightmare, and you might actually do them. But I got you covered, because in this video I will go through 3 very common mistakes that we usually tend to do that turn our applications into a performance nightmare. So stay tuned and get ready to be blown away. Hey there, and welcome to the Code Wrinkles channel for this video, in which I want to show you some programming patterns that we tend to use and that are really a performance nightmare. Before we get into it, I would like to say that when it comes to performance, we usually tend to think about it only in terms of execution time. However, generally, when we want to optimize our apps for performance, there are several things that we have actually to keep in our mind. So execution time is, of course, one of them, but there is also memory allocation, which is very important. And there is then also a third part, which is, well, risky behavior of our application that could potentially lead to our application, well, going simply down. So when we want to optimize for performance, we actually always have to find a trade-off and a balance between these 3 aspects. The first very common programming pattern that we tend to use a lot, or sometimes at least, is waiting synchronously on asynchronous code. And that's, for instance, always when you do something like task.wait, task.result, or task.getResult, or task.await any, or task.wait all, things similar to that. And the problem with this is that whenever we have a synchronous dependency between 2 thread pool threads, we have a potential to have what we call thread pool starvation. And that's what I want to actually showcase here. And of course, the code that you see here might seem a little bit complicated, and it might be a little bit complicated, but what we want to do here is we want to simulate in a very controlled environment how your application would behave if you have maybe thousands of requests and you are doing, like here on this line 33, waiting synchronously on an asynchronous code and what it could happen. Now, a very basic walkthrough what we have here, or walkthrough to what we have here, is, as we see, we create a new task that we start now, and this task actually just calls this producer. The producer, what it does, it enqueues basically 10 different processes each second. And why this is important? Because what we have here in this process, you see that we just create a new task and we sleep for 1 second. And this process, or this producer, actually just sleeps for 100 milliseconds. So it means that while we are waiting for the first task to complete, actually the process will kick in 10 other or 9 other different other tasks that will all of them still wait for 1 second. And you can see that kind of like this will increase exponentially. And then we have this line of code that's actually very problematic, and this is TCS, or, well, task then wait. Now, the problem with this is that it could, as said, lead to thread pool starvation, and I want to show you what that actually means. So what I will do here is I will run the program, and in the meantime, I will also look into the resource monitor, and I will kind of like look for the application that we have. So here's the application that is currently running, and this is how it looks like in the resource monitor. And you can see basically here this threads counter. And this amount of threads, it kind of like increases, constantly increases with several different threads per second. And it will actually never stop. It will still continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and simply consume a lot of threads. We are just running it for a few seconds and we already have more than 200 threads. In another couple of seconds, probably it will arrive at 500, and at a certain point at 1000, and so on and so forth. But I guess you get the point. At a certain point, probably you would have no threads available, and that would actually bring your application down. So waiting synchronously or on asynchronous code can lead to a lot of problems. And what I want to do is also, let's get rid of this resource monitor and stop the application right now. And I would like to show you in comparison, if we do it the right way, what actually the difference is here. So what we'll do here is, instead of waiting synchronously, we'll await the task. Now everything should be fine. And let me run the application again right now. And I will bring once again the resource monitor. And you see that this time actually we have thread 17. It kind of like doesn't really grow. And if it grows a little bit, then it shrinks down once again. Basically, it finds a way to optimize all the stuff that we are doing so that it consumes the least amount of threads. And you see that no matter how long the application is running, the number of consumed threads is actually fairly stable. So you see that there is really a big difference between these two scenarios, because when we waited synchronously, already we had more than 200 threads that we were using in our application. And right now, by just simply using the await keyword and asynchronously awaiting an async process or task, we have already optimized our application and we don't run the risk of having a thread pool starvation. The second very common mistake that we tend to do is using async void methods. Now, void returning async methods have a very specific purpose, and this is to make asynchronous event handlers possible. Async void methods have a different error handling semantics, and when an exception is thrown out of an async task or an async task of T, then the exception is captured and placed on the task object. With async void methods, there is no task object, so any exception thrown out of an async void method will be raised directly on the synchronization context that was active when the async void method actually started. And that's why catching exceptions thrown in an async void method is not possible at all, and that's why I would consider this a performance problem. And let me walk you through the application that we use here to kind of like showcase this. We have this very simple class, which is a worker, and here we have two methods. One that is an async void method, and the other one that is an async task method. And what we do here, of course, we just await task delay for 1 second, but before we actually await and, well, have this kind of like async work done, like delaying for 1 second, we just throw an exception because we want to simulate the scenario of throwing errors out of async methods. So what we have here in this program class right now is, first of all, we want to run this, the do something async void. So we first run the method that is async void. So let's place a breakpoint here and just debug the application and see exactly what will happen. So the application builds, the application starts, we see here the console, and we see that actually nothing happens on the console. And if we go back to the console, we don't have any feedback. We haven't hit our breakpoint. We really don't know anything about our application. What happened actually? We don't really know. And that's a big, big problem. Let me right now actually go over and change this to be an async method like that. And now let's debug the application again and see if there is any difference between the first scenario that we actually witnessed. So right now we are awaiting and this do something task, and as you can see, we have hit our breakpoint. So in this case, our very basic try catch is useful because it actually goes into the catch block when we have an exception. And in our case, we can simply log the exception to the console. So if we go back to the console, at least we have some feedback and we know that an error was thrown, and because we just logged it to the console. But previously, we didn't really have any type of feedback regarding what was happening to our application, and this could cause a lot of headaches in the applications that we are using. So once again, don't use async void methods. The third common mistake that we need to avoid is converting enums to strings. Now, calling the enum to string method in .NET is very costly, as reflection is used internally for the conversion, and calling a virtual method on struct causes boxing allocation. So as a result, we should tend as much as possible to avoid this. Now, if we think about the enums and the need to turn them into strings, like calling to string on a certain enum very, very often, like this is an enum with weekdays and Monday. So if we need to call toString method on this enum very, very often, it also means that what we could do is express this enum just as a constant string. So we have this class created here, which is weekdays class, and we have this public constant string Monday, and we provide the value of Monday directly as a string. So what we have here set up is also some basic benchmarks for two methods. The first one is using the enum to string, and we can see that writer already tells us that there is a boxing allocation happening. And then the second method, it simply uses the weekdays class and the constant string that we have there and places that value or that string value into our variable. Now let's run these benchmarks. We need to change this to release before we can run that. Let's run the application and let's check back when we have the benchmark results. Here they are, and I assume that it is really not a big surprise for anybody what's happening here. And of course, when we use the enum and call the toString method, we see that it performs very bad in comparison to actually what happens when we use the constant string. And when we think about performance here, in this case, once again, even if we think in terms of execution time, we see that enum to string is very slow, but it also allocates memory. And of course, as we have that boxing allocation happening, that is already allocated. Now for the constant string, actually what happens is that we don't really have any memory allocation in the method, for instance, where we use that string, because constant string are actually evaluated at compile time, and it means that they are not allocated again when we use them in that specific method. So this is what happens here and what the explanation is, but really you can take a look on yourself and see that there is really a huge difference when it comes to enums to string. So my point here is that you should be careful when you are using the enum to string. And if you have application hotpads in which you convert enums to string on a constant basis, then it means that it might be time to actually think about a different strategy and using maybe something else instead of enums. This idea of constant string was just one example, but anything that kind of like doesn't really create an additional boxing allocation would be very good, because it would perform faster in terms of execution speed, but it will be also more optimal even in terms of allocated memory. To sum everything up, it's important to understand that when we think about performance in C#, we don't really think only about execution time. We need to also think about, optimal behavior of our application. We should also think about potential risks that our application might run and that would break the application actually. And also we have to think about, memory allocation. That's also very important. And always when we think about performance, it's a balance between these three. Now, the thing is that before we think about very complex or complicated topics on performance, like optimizing GC, optimizing memory allocation, working with spans, working with the memory Marshal class and things similar to that, I wanted in this video to pinpoint that there are some very common practices out there and that are actually a performance nightmare. And we have looked into the first one with synchronously waiting on an async task. The second one that we looked at is the async void methods, which are really bad from my point of view. And the third one that we have looked in is to converting enums to string. And really that happens a lot in applications out there, especially in ASP.NET Core MVC applications where we have enums. And on the front end, on the HTML, kind of like in the Razor views, we want to display their corresponding strings. And then we have this huge, or we use these enums to string a lot, and we need to consider maybe a different strategy to optimize actually our application, especially if we have a high load on certain application hotpads. That would be really important. If you think that this video was useful for you, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you have any question or if you have any thought, just leave a comment and I would be more than happy to get in touch with you and get a discussion going. And if you think that there might be other people that would benefit from this video, don't be shy and share it wherever you see fit, with your friends, at work, on social media, wherever you think that there might be anybody interested in this video. Share it, and I guess that they will be thankful to you. This being said, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, I wish you the very best.